On May 16, 1916, Britain and France had a couple of secret meetings. In one of the meetings, they agreed to sign an agreement to take control over the Middle East because the Ottoman Empire collapsed. The British and the French wanted to create their own borders for the Middle East. They later announced that the creation of the new borders for Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Palestine, but the meeting broke up without agreement. Sykes and Picot met privately to discuss how they were going to get this plan to work. The British and the French government were the protectors of the Middle East, and they didn't care to get consent to change the borders from the Arab countries. Colonialism means to have control over governing influence of a nation over a dependent country, territory, or the people. The countries that were getting colonized found it wrong to move in troops from another country and take territory without consent. The British and the French didn't care, and they went through with their plan. The territorial divide has caused many conflicts between the countries affected by the Sykes-Picot Agreement.
On May 16th of 1916, Mark Sykes of Britain and Francois Georges Picot of France completely changed the borders of the Middle East. Many current-day Middle Eastern countries were created, including Palestine, by the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Following the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Britain gave up the idea of partitioning for the Ottoman Empire's properties as initially proposed in the Sykes-Picot Agreement, and Britain captured Palestine and Iraq. On a spring day in 1948, Britain ended its mandate in Palestine. Hours later, the Jewish leadership, led by future Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, declared the establishment of a Jewish state, to be known as the State of Israel. The British had before and during both the First and Second World Wars called for the migration of Europe's Jews to Palestine, paving the way for the establishment of that new state, at the cost of the Palestinians losing their land and being forced out of their homes. Nearly a century after the execution of the Sykes-Picot Agreement, Palestinian people have called for the destruction of the Sykes-Picot borders and the creation of new Muslim-created borders/countries that better reflect the wishes of the people living in the region. Currently, Palestine is divided into the Gaza Strip and the West Bank territories.
On November 2nd, 1917, November 29th, 1947, the date of United Nations resolution on the partitioning of Palestine. They are generally recognized as milestones of the path towards Israeli statehood. Arguably, another date could be added, specifically May 16, 1916. On this date, two European diplomats reached a secret agreement to carve up many of the lands under the rule of Ottoman Empire into British and French spheres of influence and domination once the war against the Central Powers was won. Arab leaders threw in their lot with the British in order to attain domination over most of the Arab lands to be taken after the war from the Turks, both as their contribution to the war effort was practically none. The promises made to them by the Allied forces were ignored after the war.
The Green Zone is located in current-day Turkey and is under the control of the Italians. Now, if you look at the Blue Zone, it is located in present-day Syria, Iraq, and Jordan and was under the control of the British. The Red Zone in the south was located in current-day Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Jordan and was under the control of the British Empire at that time. The Yellow region was under the control of the Russian Empire and was located in present-day Turkey, Georgia, and Armenia. And the Purple Zone, located in the west by modern-day Israel and Palestine, was created as an international/independent zone for the eventual creation of a Jewish state. Currently, there are a variety of groups like ISIS that have vowed to dissolve the borders that were formed in part by the Sykes-Picot Agreement. On top of the discontent stirred up by the militant groups, many of the countries that emerged after the withdrawal of the British found themselves dealing with borders that clashed with ethnic and religious makeup of the people living in that region.
This map explains where and how the British and the French had control and influence over the Middle Eastern countries and how they made the territorial divide. After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and the end of World War I in 1918, the Middle Eastern countries lost their connection with the Ottoman Empire, so they were very vulnerable to almost any powerful country. After the Sykes-Picot Agreement was established, the change in borders has caused many conflicts. Some people had to share the same borders with people they aren't compatible with. This creates a lot of tension in the country, which can lead to violent protests, riots, and more.